let me know, what are your thoughts down below? How did you feel about the movie, watching as a woman, watching as a man? You know, what were your own views and thoughts? What do you think the director or the writers or everybody could have done to make this movie much better? What do you think were some hits and some misses from this particular movie? Let me know in the comment section down below.
इस गुस्से को लेके क्या करोगे तुम लाइफ में कबीर?
I'm not a rebel without a cause, sir.
What's up guys, welcome back to my channel. If you clicked on this particular video, then you already know what is in store for you. I am going to review Kabir Singh, the new movie that was released June 21st, starring Shahid Kapoor and Kiara Advani. This movie is the 2019 Hindi remake of the cult classic Telugu film Arjun Reddy, which was starring Vijay Deverakonda, who's one of my favorites. But basically this is the Hindi remake of that particular movie, and I have seen that movie, so I will be kind of comparing both of them in this particular review. If you have not seen Kabir Singh or Arjun Reddy yet and you want to avoid spoilers at all times, I say watch this video with caution. I am going to try not to spoil many things, but I may reference some points that may be spoilers, and I'm just kind of going with the flow. I can't guarantee that there will not be spoilers, so just watch with caution, or just wait till you've seen the movie yourself, or just watch even if you don't care. So yes, I'm gonna go straight into this particular review. So I'm going to kind of talk about this particular movie in two sections. I'm gonna talk about it in the negative light and the positive light. So if you have social media, we all know the reviews about this particular movie. It is a bunch of mixed reviews, okay? There is a particular audience that feel like this particular movie is very problematic and it enforces toxic masculinity. I agree to an extent, that part of the audience. Then there are other audience who also believe that this is simply just a movie, and that Kabir is not a hero, and that he's not someone that you should look up to, and that you should just watch and enjoy it simply for the movie part. I also agree with that part of the audience to an extent, and I'll tell you guys why as I break it down and give my review. So these are all my opinions. So it is not a paid review, so I promise you whatever I'll be saying will be my own opinion. First and foremost, I want to give a big shout out to Deepak with the Twitter handle DipZoomOut. Thank you so much. I believe he's the director of Kala Media Works and Weekend Cinema. He blessed me with tickets to go watch this particular movie, so thank you so much. If it wasn't for you, I probably would have not gone and watched it this weekend. We would have waited till later or just something else, but thank you so much for making this opportunity possible so that I can sit down and review it for you guys. So yes, so Kabir Singh, what is this movie about? Basically, this movie follows the lead character, Kabir Singh, and he is what you would call an asshole, entitled, and basically someone who thinks they're the shit. No sugarcoating. This is literally Kabir Singh as a whole. And so essentially, story kind of breaks it down into the future and then in the past, as Kabir Singh kind of reminisces about his love. So Kabir Singh, we the audience gets to see him. He's basically a student with anger issues. Oh my god, who falls in love with a girl named Pretty? And so the story kind of follows their journey and the ups and downs of their love story, and how Kabir kind of spiraled out of control because he loses her, and just so many different ins and outs of this particular story. Now, before I start, personally, for me, I don't see Kabir Singh as a hero. He may be the lead character, but to me, he's not a hero. And I think that's one of the main problems that a lot of people kind of went into this movie thinking. Kabir Singh is by no chance a hero. This is not a guy you should look up to. This is not a guy you should want to date. He has flaws. He has flaws, and the story is about basically a man who has flaws. And you're watching this movie and you're seeing this play out, and you're in, you know, in some scenes you really just want to like grab onto Kabir and just say stop being an asshole, and in some scenes you just want to slap him. Some scenes you feel sorry for him, and some scenes you just want to say good, he deserves what he got. Basically this is like a bunch of emotions you can feel watching this movie. Now, in hindsight, for me particularly, a lot of people saying that this movie is very triggering, and it is. if you have been a victim of verbal abuse, or physical abuse, I really suggest watching this movie with caution. This is not a movie for everyone. So if you go into it with that kind of perspective, then you understand that this is simply a movie about a flawed character, a character who is basically a hot mess, like literally. For me, that's just kind of how I went into it. It also helped that I had already seen Arjun Reddy, so I kind of went into this knowing what to expect. And let me just say that the performances done by Shahid and Kiara was amazing. Shahid did so well as Kabir Singh. He made me literally hate Kabir and yet feel sorry for him at the same time, which is really good. He did his job as an actor, okay? He did it. In fact, he did it way too well. He really proved me wrong. Remember when I reacted to the trailer, I was a bit nervous because I really didn't think this movie should have been remade. I just thought that it was a little bit controversial and it should have just stood right where it was, which is Arjun Reddy. But in some ways, the remake was not bad at all. This was actually a great remake. They definitely kept to the tale, and I think it's because the director was the same. It was Sandeep Vanga, and I definitely think that he kept this story exactly to the T of Arjun Reddy, which was good for a remake. And for me, one of the main problems, which could be spoilers, sorry if you're watching this, it's a little bit spoiler. I personally think that it could have been handled very well. This movie, I think, missed out on an opportunity to give a cautionary tale about men who literally behaves and think like that, because in some ways never did I see anybody kind of suggest taking him to rehab when he was going through his little drug issues, alcoholism issues, even though Kabir diligently says that he's an alcoholic at some part. And I felt like everybody just kind of babied him on too long, including his family, friends, you know. It was just kind of like, okay, this is a guy who has anger issues, and they're just like, okay, you know, that's just who he is. I didn't like that. I, for one, did not really subscribe to that notion. I really think that they could have, you know, brought in a discussion where they addressed his anger issues and him kind of working on it. I really did not see that. I also think that they should have given Preeti a voice. Like, I feel like we didn't really get to see her make the choice to be with Kabir, except there is one scene where she kind of gives him consent to kind of, you know, to kiss her and all that stuff. Spoilers, I know. But yeah, apart from that, I feel like we, the audience, didn't really see like why she fell in love with him. We didn't really get to know whether or not she was even okay with him kind of claiming her in the beginning without her knowledge, and kind of basically taking her as his territory. I felt like it was a little bit, you know, the way they played it, it just looked like he was obsessed and crazy and kind of, you know, entitled. And I feel like that was one of the main issues that a lot of women and people had. You know, I feel like Preeti did not have a choice, and we definitely would have loved to see her at least decide or choose or tell him, you know, to his face that she likes him too, or she's attracted to him too, and so, you know, she's okay with that. I just felt like some scenes she looked a little scared, and that was, you know, that's definitely not a good way to kind of send a message. The story in general, that's how the story is written, okay? So if we're going by the story, then definitely they achieved what they wanted. Preeti was meant to be a quiet, shy girl, and, you know, Kabir is meant to be this arrogant, entitled, toxic, crazy, anger issues guy. So yes, like I said, everybody played their role perfectly. And I must also point out that a lot of people were saying that it seemed like, you know, Kabir won, or he was like a hero. Kabir is not a hero. For me, that's the #1 issue. Don't go into this movie thinking Kabir is a hero, or this great guy, or this bad guy who everybody loves. He's not. Nonetheless, he really does not win as we think he does. Technically, he loses Preeti, at least the first half. He loses Preeti, and then he also loses his license to practice, which was like the two main things that meant a lot to him. And then spoilers, totally spoilers, his grandma also died. So he lost 3 things in his life, at least at one point in his life, that was like really big deal for him. So he did lose out. He did lose out based on his own actions, his behavior, and so he did lose out. And obviously we see that he definitely went through a bit of a transformation before he finally wins Preeti over. So in some ways, yes, it's not like he won her while he was still kind of being a mess with his drugs. He definitely had to win Pretty over again when he transformed. So I see that aspect of it, and that's the part where, okay, I'm like, okay, I see it. Also wanted to hear him say sorry for his anger. I feel like that was kind of just brushed over. They really, the only thing he really said sorry for was just kind of like, well, I don't want to give too much away, but he does say sorry, but I don't think it's sorry for what we, the audience, really wanted him to be sorry for. I wanted to see him basically admit to working on his anger and trying to get better. I mean, we see him work on his drug and alcohol use. We see him kind of basically say that he's gonna stop, you know, he's gonna get better, and we see him get better and sober, but we don't really see him kind of dealing with the anger, which is one of the biggest problems. You know, he definitely has to deal with that anger, and I think that that was not really talked about, at least as much as this should have been. But despite all of that, the positives of this movie, the songs were absolutely beautiful. Like, honestly, seeing it play out on the big screen, I loved it. The scenes where they were being romantic, you know, at that moment, a small part of me was just like, oh, you know, and then like 5 minutes later Kabir ruins it. But still, you know, in that, like, that frame of the love songs and their romantic scenes, of course they got me. I'm not a robot. I was definitely feeling it, and I did ship them. I wanted them to be together, you know, but it's just that Kabir has so much issues, and so for me it was really hard as an audience. Like, do I even want him to end up with her? Do I even want him to end up with her? It was like one of those questions that you always ask yourself. And so the songs were beautiful, the acting was on point, the direction was on point. Basically the story literally does what it's supposed to do, and it is a great remake. That's like all I'm gonna say. It does its job. It's just that there's just so many problematic, you know, aspects to it that it has turned people off, and rightfully so. You know, I feel like everybody has many people have trigger issues, and that's perfectly fine. You don't want to watch this if you're somebody who, like I mentioned, have been verbally or physically abused. It's not right. There are some scenes that are very triggering, and so I would not advise you to watch it if you're not ready for that, honestly. At the end of the day, Shahid is playing a character. I feel like those people who are mad at him gotta realize that just as much as people play villains and crazy people in movies, this is literally what he's playing. He's playing a bad guy, okay? A bad guy who's just out of control, who thinks he's a good guy when he's really not, and obviously gets, I don't know, I guess a second chance at life to kind of fix his issues. So I guess you could say that's literally kind of what the aspect of this movie is about. If you're a guy and you're watching Kabir and you think that what he's doing is like, wow, you know, I want to be like him, then you have issues yourself that you need to work on, because that's definitely not what a man should treat anybody, or what anybody should treat anybody, you know what I mean? Like, that's definitely one thing to get out of this movie, is that do not watch this movie and want to be like Kabir or Are You Ready. Please, I'm begging you, do not. But with that being said, honestly though, I definitely get both sides of the argument, because like I said, I was familiar with the concept going in, so it wasn't as bad for me. Kabir Singh is the type of movie that if you're able to kind of go into it with all of these mindsets, you will enjoy the film. But like, honestly, with that being said, you will in some ways, because it does have its hits and it does have its miss. And at some point in society, we gotta just kind of realize that you cannot possibly think that you cannot possibly want every movie to train you or teach you how to be a good person. At some point, you gotta be a good person. You gotta be a good man and a good woman and a good person in general for yourself, and just for basic knowledge. Like, you know that this is not how it is, or this is not how a person should behave. So I feel like that's kind of my take on it. But honestly though, it was not a bad movie. It was not like the worst movie I've ever seen in my life. For me, there's a lot of other movies I've seen that kind of enforces that same obsessive behavior. but people seem to like those movies as well. So at the end of the day, I feel like people just pick and choose which ones they want to like. If for me per se, if you're somebody who can overlook all of these things and realize that Kabir is not somebody to look up to, I feel like you'll be okay watching this movie. You know what's right from wrong, then you'll be fine. Then I can definitely suggest this movie for you. However, if you are somebody who also has been a victim of verbal abuse and physical abuse, then I really do give a caution to this particular film. So yeah, just be aware, and I say you just choose, you decide. Honestly, the choice is up to you. You choose whether you want to watch it or not. I say don't let people decide for you. So just watch it for yourself and decide for yourself, okay? Decide for yourself. With that being said, so surprise announcement. Sky and I, and if you are a long-time subscriber of mine, you know who Sky is. Sky is a fellow YouTuber who also reacted to Bollywood content as well. So me and her have decided to start a collab page, and it's gonna be like a podcast. And we're going to kind of shoot our first episode next week, and we're gonna upload it in a couple of weeks. The page and the podcast is gonna be called Grab the Spoon. We're gonna explain everything. I will give more details, but basically during this podcast, on the first episode, we are going to talk a lot about Kabir Singh and toxic masculinity. So we will bring those kind of topics there. So please be on the lookout if you are interested for sure about podcasts and all that stuff. I love you guys so much. Subscribe, like this video, share this video. Until next time, guys. Bye.